Okay, so it's another time for another show. Yeah, it's that time. Nice. Yeah, we're back. I'm going to go through a bit of a process today on what's the process going to be? The process for planning out a bit of a high-level look at maybe the videos that I want to produce, and possibly what else? The podcast layout. Bit vague today. Sorry about that. All right. So what I do, I use a particular tool. So let's get a view that I think will suit this one here. I use this tool, put it up over here, called MindJet Mind Manager. So it's here it is there. It's a mind mapping tool. Yep. Just in case you haven't heard of MindJet Mind Manager, I'll show you what I do with this. So it's a little bit expensive, but what I do, you can tell there, daily plan 2024 1101. That's the 1st of November 2024. I've got a filing system for a daily plan. You don't have to do this. This is what I do. I do like a lifetime end of my life goal setting thing, and I'll show you what that looks like in a sec. And then 20 years, 10 years, 5 to 1, 6 months, monthly, weekly, and I do the weekly as a daily plan. So I don't do daily plans as such every single day, but I do a week in advance of the days involved. So I'll start over here. So what I've got is basically the date, and what I do at the start of every day, just to see what I've got on my list of things to do, is I update the date. Today being, I think it's the Sunday the 3rd. So you can tell I don't do it religiously every day, but I try to do it every day. It's but the reason I do this every day is because subconsciously the goals that you set for yourself, especially when you write the goals down, when you set the goals on a piece of paper and you physically write it down, I don't know the psychology or why this or how this works, but basically those goals, they get stored in your long-term memory for some reason, and you subconsciously are working towards solving the problem of achieving the goals that you've set for yourself for some time in the future, whether that's today, tomorrow, a week later, a month, 6 months, yearly, whatever. And I know this is a fact and it works because I've been doing this. Let me see if I can show you. I've been doing this for quite a number of years. So if I go, say, open and look at the mind maps that I've got. So I've got the same file name, so I can do quick searches like this. So daily plan and then the year, month, and day. You can tell that when I started doing the daily plan, 2014, 0821 looks like to be the earliest one I've got here. I've got them on other hard drives as well, but there you go. From 2014 at least, I started doing mind mapping on a regular basis. And subconsciously, I've set myself goals like starting businesses, getting YouTube channels going, uploading videos, achieving lifetime big goals like buying houses or starting a family, getting married, or that kind of thing. Don't think I would have got married as one of these goals, but I did do goal setting when I was younger. Anyway, but the point is that you set a goal, you write it down, and subconsciously your mind is working towards solving the problem of achieving that goal. Believe it or not, I'm a believer because I've seen the results here. This is why I continue to do it. And so the goal planning ideas are those big areas I talked about. What does my ideal life look like? End of my life goals, first day, rest of my life. So just kind of a reminder, this one here, of, this is literally the first day for the rest or of the rest of not just my life, but anyone watching this. It's the first day of the last, of the rest of your life right now. It's kind of hard to, I can't, words are words. I can't express what goes on in my mind when I read that sentence, but either it resonates with you or it doesn't. For me, it resonates strongly. So I remind myself of that often. So the past is gone. I can't change it. The future is unknown. I don't know. But right here, right now, I'm living and I'm doing what I want to do. And I can make plans for future me to make my life easier, which is what I'm trying to do with these plans. So I got this idea for the guy group. So I just call myself the sound guy at the moment. Sound guy. I was the computer guy. So I got the guy group kind of as an overall theme, and then from that we draw down into the specific aspects of my life that I'm spending effort and time in. And currently I'm putting a lot of effort and time in sound, but I'm going to blow that out to like the movie guy. So I want to be a movie maker. So the movie maker guy might be a title that I come up with later. But right now I want to get sound completely dialed in and nailed. And especially, well, that's not really related to sound, is it? But the story, how to tell a really good story is what I'm working on as well. So then I've got this kind of backlog. This is stolen from the Sprint Scrum Master world, where I've got things that I want to get done. There's a huge list. I'll just add the things that I'd like to do or want to get done into that backlog, which is going to be done sometime in the future, either in person, online, using the phone or text or via email. I can't think of any other categories that make sense to me, so I just make these broad categories and list them in that kind of a categorization. So I'm a strong believer in systems and in categorizing, pigeonholing, if you like. I know that people don't like that and react negatively to that, but there are positive aspects to this, so that I can work out where to spend effort and time in doing what I want to do. I think we've got a little quick snap of Alfie. He just walked in, and that's his favourite spot right there. It's pretty awesome. Okay, so that's my backlog, basically. So I turn to that when I've got nothing else to do, but I've always got something to do. Or there's something really important I want to do, but I know I can't get to it now. I'll put it in there for later. So then there's a daily task. Now, I've got that blank at the moment because I haven't done daily task planning in a while. Same thing for weekly tasks. It's been a while since I've actually been doing the daily, weekly, fortnightly. But when, and there's reasons for that. Since losing my job in June 2023, my daily routine is kind of up in the air. I'm changing my work hours often where I'm working at Signub, and that means it's really hard to plan for what I'm going to do each kind of week by week. So I can do generally a week in advance. So I'm going to try to work out what I want to get done in the week in advance, and starting to do that today. Anyway, this is very long-winded, but this is the breakdown of everything that helps me get my planning done. So I'm starting from, what's the life looking like? I really should order that differently so that we've got the big picture then down to specifics, but I've gone big picture and then specifics and then kind of broad again. Anyway, I'll tidy that up so it makes more sense. But 20, 15, 10, 5, 2, 12, 6 years, quarter year, monthly, 3 weekly, fortnightly, weekly, daily. So to some people, this will be very off-putting and like tedious and it's like over the top and ridiculous. Why would anyone do that? But for me, I absolutely love it, and absolutely, like I said, subconsciously hitting goals and then seeing when you hit these goals afterwards and you realize, holy crap, I thought that I was going to either get that done sooner or later. 9 times out of 10, these big goals I'm achieving ahead of when I think I'm going to achieve it, which I find fascinating. And then the little easier goals you think you can get done in an hour or two, they take days or weeks. Like, yeah, the estimation for me I find challenging. But anyway, that's what I do. So that's the planning side of things for my life. So I had a company called The Computer Guy, since folded. Don't know why I've still got that there. I think I was going to... Oh, yeah. So when I lost my job in June 2023, I thought I could resurrect The Computer Guy and do some more computer work, but it's as hard, if not harder now, to set that business up. I don't have the will, desire, or financial backing to do that again. So I'm actually going to remove that because that's not going to happen. I can tell you now. It is not going to happen. So this one I've got to rename because I don't want them to know what I'm doing. I think this is how I... I think that's how it is backwards. Here we go. Yep. And so what I'll do is I'll keep that kind of semi-secret. I want you guys to know what I'm doing in that organization, but I don't want them to know. Because they're basically they're wanting to become the Australian version of the American Walmart. And Wall-E, the movie, really spoke to me about how, by and large, their movie version of Walmart basically destroyed the planet. And I see these organizations as doing that, the Walmarts of the world and the Signubs of the world. They, for all the events, for all, what's the word? Something and purposes. I don't remember the phrase now, but anyway, for all intents, that's it, intents and purposes, they mean well, and they say they will do what will protect the planet and keep things going sustainably. But in reality, it is the exact opposite. I can tell you that with my hand on my heart. Unfortunately, they're lying, and it's a shame, and they will deny it. But everything is, working towards actually destroying the planet, not saving it. It's really disappointing. But that's just life, so I'm not going to harp on that. That's just the way it is. So this is a bit of a planning tool I'm using to try to do what I can in that space to live a good life and do the right thing in my work life, which is something I want to minimize more and more. I want to get more and more passive income, hence this YouTube channel and my extremely slow growth. We have 92 people now subscribed. Thank you so much for all 92 of you. It's a really slow growth, and it's because I'm not niching down. I don't want to niche down. I just want to grow organically and know that the people that are subscribing to my channel want to. I'm actively discouraging people to subscribe unless they really want to subscribe, because I don't want to get my validation or my value from numbers from a business entity such as YouTube. As much as I love YouTube, they're a business. They're here to make money, and they really don't care how they do it. They'll say they will, but ultimately they don't care. So with that said, I'm really grateful for your subscription. And if you want to subscribe, by all means, subscribe. And if you don't want to, by all means, don't subscribe. It's fine. I just want to share with you what helps my life, and maybe you can, maybe it will help your life as well. I can hear a dog in the background. What's he doing? He's shifted position. He's come closer. Why is that? Okay, so what I'm doing for learning is this lessons being learnt and current projects. So things that I work on, I always, well, we as humans, this is how we learn. We fail and we learn from the failure and keep going. I heard recently, or not recently, but I keep on hearing that you don't really learn that much when you win, which is, when you think about it, kind of obvious and kind of true. You've won, so you think, well, I'll just do it again. Whatever I did last time, I'll do it again. But things change, and so that means you're more than likely not going to win the next time if you keep doing the same thing, because things just change. So when you fail, you have to go back and go, what did I not anticipate, or what was it that I mistook as being in my favor but it actually wasn't in my favor? How can I learn from my failure? And then you just keep on reiterating with that shoe art cycle from W. Edwards Deming I keep talking about, plan, do, study, act. So you plan something, you do it, you study it, and then you act again, and then you do it again, and you in the planning. It becomes a cycle, positive growth cycle, plan, do, study, act, PDSA. It comes from W. Edwards Deming. Look up that guy. He is really, really cool. He's dead, but very smart guy. So, yeah, back to this. So what I've got, I want to do an idea for... Oh, I want to capture some ideas, rather, for making some... Sometimes they're going to be for podcasts, sometimes they're going to be for video, sometimes they're going to be in between. The in between I'm calling podio or vidcasts. So I'm going to put them in here as ideas. One of the guys at Signub I was speaking to about making movies and doing things creatively came up with this, so many ideas really quickly, and they're all around calendar themes. So we've got summertime coming up, so there's lots of themes around that. We've got obviously Christmas coming up, lots of things coming up around that. There were a couple of big events. What was it? There was we've just done Halloween, but I can put that in for future. Halloween. So I've got two L's. I think I've got two L's. I can't read it from here. Christmas, Halloween. He had some really, really good ideas, just kind of appeared in his mind and shouted them out over lunch, which is really interesting. They're the big ones, though. Summertime, Christmas, Halloween. There's a forever going one, I guess, change of season. So, spring. Summer, autumn, winter. What I do is, this is something which I did a while ago. It takes a lot more effort, but is really valuable. So what I do is, Steve Covey had a book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And in that book, is this idea around a quadrant. One of the many things he spoke of was the idea of a quadrant. So we've got on one side, what I'll do, we've got it here, so let's show you. It's actually on the net. It's basically a square cut up into quadrants, and there's urgent, not urgent, important, and not important. And in those quadrants, you plug in the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's based on what you determine the definitions for each quadrant is. And this is what I've done. Steve Covey. It's actually someone else's idea. Urgent, non-urgent. So this got images. So this one here, if we visit this. Anyway, can't get it on its own, but there you go. First things first. So urgent and important is quadrant 1. Not urgent but important is quadrant 2. Urgent, not important is, for me, 3. And then, in fact, no, that's 1. Sorry to do this. That's 2. That's 3. And this is 4. Not urgent, not important. So this is what this author has determined basically for their definitions, but mine's slightly different. So obviously in the urgent and important, that's where your bosses called you and said, I want this thing done today. So that goes into that quadrant. Not urgent and important are things that you can plan to do. And they're the 3s for me. And the reason I made that 3 and not 2 is because this one, urgent, not important, is a thing like a phone call. It's urgent, but not important. I don't know what's at the end of that phone call, who it is, what they want, or anything. So it could be that suddenly becomes an urgent and important, or it becomes a not urgent, not important, or it becomes just eliminate it. But you got to find out what that is. It could be a great opportunity, or it could be nothing at all. So that comes sometimes ahead of this one, the urgent and important. So even while you're doing urgent and important work number one, this one sometimes creeps into interrupting that one because it's a thing like a phone call. So the two is really interesting. And this is where I think most people fail because they put that as a 3 and they leave the phone calls, for example, in the planning stage and swap the planning for the number 2 stage. But in reality, don't do that because everyone answers their phone when it rings. So it interrupts. So it's not reflecting what actually happens in reality, at least in my reality. So phone calls, etc., become 2. So this is 1, this is 2, 3 are the things that I don't need to do straight away. I can plan for and do. Number 2, the delegate is important. Excuse me, because in the planning stages for quadrant 3, I've got a subroutine which I've written out in a flowchart form, which I could show you, but it's so messy, it's not worth spending a lot of time on it. It's basically, do I do it now? It's a subroutine of this quadrant, but it's a real time thing that I do literally in 5 seconds. When a task comes across my desk in this quadrant 2 area, that's where I pick up this flowchart and I work out. Is it something that I can do immediately? If it is, I'll do it immediately. Like it's going to take literally a minute. I'll do it. If it's something which I can't do immediately, can I delegate it? Well, in fact, not even that. I should pull it out and look at it more carefully because I've kind of forgotten. What it is actually, do I have to do it at all? Can I just dump it? Go straight to 4? Can I just eliminate it off my list of things to do? If I can't eliminate it, can I do it straight away? If I can't do it straight away, can I schedule it to be done at a later stage? And if I can't find out an answer to that straight away with those things, then I put it in a calendar event in the future and set a reminder in the calendar to remind me, hey, this thing, you have to look at it again. And then I go through the same process. And if I do that 3 times, put it in the calendar to push off, I'll just basically delete it and it's gone. But this quadrant is really, well, this quadrant plan here is really fundamental to what I'm doing with Mind Manager. Ooh, why is it not going back there? It's interesting. So yeah, with the Mind Manager, this becomes kind of like the planning tool that I use. And I keep track of everything. So if I've delegated a task, for example, I put it in here, and I've got the ability to put in, say for Christmas. This is why I love this project. This program so much. I can go in here and then put in an actual name, and I can put in a date as well. So if I choose today to start it, and then I project that it should take like 5 days to work something out for that, or 7 days, let's say there. So then it's got a start date and a finish date. You can also separate the duration. This is the step that I'm going to integrate. You can separate the normally you can. There we go. You can separate the duration and effort. So it could be 8 days duration, but it might only be like 1 day's effort. And so with that, you can see if it's delegated to Andrew. I can give Andrew a reminder, say halfway through on the 5th, for example. How are you going with that task? Is it going to be done? Because it's only 1 day's effort. And you can manage that task and the delegation of it in that way. Really good project management tool, and it's really useful. You can export this into Excel and make a spreadsheet out of it. It's so good. That's what I'm contemplating reintroducing to my workflow, but honestly, it's kind of overkill. yeah, it's not something that I did it for a little while, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure I'm gonna do it in that manner, because it adds a lot more time to the planning required. I got to work out in my mind whether it's worth the effort to do that level of detail, and whether it actually helps me or not. The reason it can help is because you can then, if you're over time, your estimates become tighter and tighter, or they should, as you put tasks into the day that you want to have tasks done by, and you can see whether you're overloading yourself or not. Rule of thumb is basically have between 3 and 5 tasks that you want to get done in a day, and you won't get many more than 5 tasks done in a day, whether they're phone calls or bigger jobs. It sounds wrong, but it's been borne out in my experience that 3 is roughly the number of things you can reliably get done every day. 3 tasks, 3 different tasks. You can aim for 5, but they've got to be easily achievable. And the only way you're going to know if they're easily achievable is when you estimate how much time you're going to need against each task and learn from the experience when you go in the following day. Did you get the task done? Why not? I didn't allocate enough time is often the reason. Procrastination is another big one, but subconsciously, when you write these things down, your brain is helping you achieve the goals and helping you not procrastinate. It's a weird science. I don't understand it, but it actually works. And that's one of the other benefits of writing down and planning out what you're going to be doing. And that takes us a long, long way from where I started. This is what I do when I plan for videos and topics and that kind of thing. So for today's podcast, I'm actually going to make it a video, because there's a few things that we spoke of. I'm going to say current, or say next episode. How I got into sound. So I'm actually going to do the podcast as I plan it out, because it's fairly straightforward. Now I'm going to go and teach you how to suck eggs here. I'm going to go file save, and I do this regularly because back in my uni days, when I was using an Amiga 500 in my Bachelor of Science degree, it had a faulty power supply, and it taught me a really valuable lesson. The power supply basically would overheat and freeze, and the whole machine would stop working. So midway through edits of either code or essays or assignments, my computer would randomly freeze and I would lose everything unless I got in the habit of saving regularly. So I did my degree part-time, and I worked full-time in IT. So I think I was in there for 7 years doing my degree, and over 7 years I kept that computer, and it got me in the habit of saving regularly. So I did it manually there, but I've worked out, obviously, on the Mac, the Command S will do the same thing, and it got me in the habit of saving regularly. So I'm grateful that my computer was faulty. I never fixed it, so that I could, because I couldn't afford to, I've now got the habit of saving regularly just in case something happens. And occasionally these programs, they do crash, so I don't like losing and having to rework, which is another thing that W. Edwards Deming spoke of often. Rework. It's the cancer of business, basically, almost of life. Like, it's such a waste to have to redo things. And now I'm repeating myself. So how I got into sound. So, all right, as a kid, and then through my life, and then losing my job, pardon me, finding a Facebook movie group, making movies. So I'm not a script reader. I hate reading from a script, and most of my videos, like this one, is unscripted, unplanned, unthought of, except with this seed of a thought. Oh, I want to talk about how I got into sound, and I often go down side paths, off the beaten track, off topic, which is what's happened right now. But we're getting back on track slowly. Making movies, buying, can't spell buying equipment. It's actually sound equipment. Buying sound equipment. And future ideas. So, one of the ones being digital products or sound files. So there's my outline of what I want to talk about today, and I need that, otherwise I ramble and I go off on tangents, as you've seen. So and that's it. That's how I plan my podcast. That's what I do. Save. And as things crop up and as I need to explain something, I'll work out camera angles, and I've got that flexibility at last where I can do this. I can go completely off air and just talk with audio, or I can integrate my face on the video, or if there's something that I want to explain with an overhead camera, I've got the overhead camera shot that I can deploy as well, and I can do a wireless mirror adapter. So I've got a camera not hooked up right now to do remote video, which I showed off yesterday, but I haven't included. I might include that video in here. Then we've got Alfie's shot, which is just a webcam pointed at the floor. And the one thing I didn't talk about earlier was the weather outside. I normally want to start the show with how we're looking outside. So it's spring. We've got cloud. You can see the corner of my house there. There's cloud cover. It was raining yesterday, and my lime tree, which is the foreground tree there, has some limes on it, but they fell on the ground. There's a whole lot of aphids on there, and something I think has made the fruit fall off. But I've got a couple of limes left, so we'll just see how we go. And then I've got my scenes at the top. So the scene A here, we've got with me in the corner and talking about what's on the screen. Then there's kind of a mixed up view there where the background overhead cam, me, the internal and external cameras, overhead with me being able to explain and talk and showing my hands and blah, blah, blah. I just love this flexibility. See, I've sidetracked in a massive way, showing off now what I can do. I love it. And there's just the dog shot, and there's just, there's me being able to talk about the dog down there. There we go. Got it. And then, the outside view as well. There we go. So, if I go back over to, I don't even remember where I was now. Must be over here. Yeah, this shot here. So, all right. So let's get back on topic, and we'll talk about how I got into sound and how. I don't know if you're interested in sound at all. And by sound, I don't mean sound design or sound engineering, but it's something that I would like to pursue. I'm talking about sound, the capturing and recording of sound using various devices. So as a kid, I remember being interested in electronics and models and making things, tearing things apart and making things, and being able to take things apart and put them back together again was something I was proud of being able to do successfully time and time again with various things, not just electronics, but electronics in particular. So my dad, I think, picked up on that interest that I had, and he used to bring me back home. He was a geodetic land surveyor, so he would go away on trips, four-wheel driving around New South Wales for the Lands Department, initially in Sydney, and then he relocated to Bathurst and took us to Bathurst to live there for about 10 years, from 1976 to about 1985 or so when I left home. And he used to take us on trips, so I started going on trips with him. We've got photos of me being 6, 7, something like that, and then up to the age of 17, 18. And during that time, Dad would let me or teach me how to drive 4-wheel drives, go adventuring, how to read maps, how to use compass, just how to navigate around in the bush with there's nothing there. There's just trees and dirt. It's just awesome. So I had a really unique kind of childhood. It was really good. And my sister and my brother and my mum would come often as well. So we'd all, as a family, be going bush. And I've got really good memories of camping on river banks where the water rose through the night, and I was floating on an airbed inside a tent with like a foot of water. God, it was crazy. And living in sheep shearers' shacks on properties, which is basically a wooden floor that you could lose things through the gaps, wooden walls with no insulation, no paint, no nothing, just wooden slats, like a fence to make walls, and then corrugated iron on the roof, just slapped on wood as well. So it was just a really basic living quarters, no running water, no toilets. There's often some kind of a heater or a burner, potbelly stove or something like that stuck in the corner where you'd feed it wood and set it on fire to get heat and cook things. There was that side of life, and we used to stay in those places sometimes for maybe a week at a go, and then other times we'd stay in 3 or 4 star hotels depending on the budgets. I don't understand how it worked, but my dad had a budget, and I think sometimes he'd stay in really cheap places and then claim that he stayed in 4 star hotels and then pocketed the difference, I think. And it was kind of not, it was a perk, I think, for the Lands Department and the Central Mapping Authority at that point to operate that way, to help them out financially, to make a bit more extra cash. So it was kind of a favour for the boys, and it was kept from senior leadership. Or senior leadership were aware of it and, let it kind of slide to help them out financially. Because we're talking the late 60s, early 70s. There wasn't a lot of money around, at least not for my family. And I think my dad's friends were in the same boat. They just needed to make ends meet somehow, and that's how they did it. They helped each other bend the laws a little bit. So, there's that kind of lifestyle growing up that way. My dad would save some money and then buy stuff for me and my brother and my sister. But for me in particular, I remember he buying either components or parts to make like radio sets, crystal radios. So if you've ever made those, they're just bits of wire wound around some kind of copper tube, or sometimes just paper tubes with a coil and a diode that you'd slide across the wire until you could get a radio reception which was loud enough to be picked up by headphones. And that's how I got into electronics. And from that, he bought a reel-to-reel tape, we call it tape recorder, I guess it's going to be called, but a reel-to-reel recorder with a microphone and enough tape to be able to make recordings. And I remember talking into it and being amazed that this tape could, replay my voice, and I could create noises and do whatever I wanted with it. And joining the tape together with sticky tape was like editing. It was so much fun. But something happened to it. It broke soon after I got it. That mechanically these things were, not really well engineered. At the time, Japan was, coming out of the problems of the Second World War and was just starting to build up its industrial base, which the link to that for me is W. Edwards Deming. Yet again, he was the guy that enabled Japan to become this quality, engineering place. And to this day, they've still got the Deming Award for quality control, I guess, or the commitment to engineering excellence. So in Japan, W. Edwards Deming is quite well known, but in America, not so much. In the Western world, not so much, because of, I think, his delivery more than anything else. He's quite a boring kind of a presenter, much like I am to a degree maybe, but he was particularly difficult to kind of listen to. There's YouTube video of him that you can see if you do a search on the Red Bean Experiment, W. Edwards Deming, you'll see exactly what I mean. But for me, I just love, and I still do, love his ideas around quality and how to, how it leads to excellence in life. So I digressed yet again. So yeah, recording, it was not really a great machine. It broke, eventually disappeared, and we got cassette players and cassette tapes, and me and my friend used to send each other cassette tapes with messages on them through the mail. I'd moved to Bathurst at that point, and my friends in Penrith, where I was growing up, I used to stay in contact with them with a cassette tape we used to send to each other. So recording sounds and voices is something that I've kind of grown up with, and I really enjoy it. So all through my life is what we're up to at this point here. So yeah, with music in my life, I remember my mum, she's a semi-professional pianist, so she could have gone professional, but she chose not to for whatever reason. And she's got a love of music. She plays piano to this day at the age of 88, and she still plays really well, like jazz pianist. She plays really well. So she bought a record player back in the 70s, maybe 71, 72, something like that. And I heard my first record being played and just blown away by how can that flat piece of black plastic make all that noise. And then I heard rock and roll for the first time on a transistor radio that my dad bought me. So again, electronics and music kind of working together. It just blew me away when I heard, I can't remember the name of the song now, but it was a pretty well-known 70s song on an AM radio, like staticky, singles, tiny little speaker. So you could barely call it music, but I could hear enough of it to go, I like this so much. So then I saw Star Wars, and Star Wars got me completely blown away by that story, making movies, sound, the visuals, everything about it. Just to this day, I am still a massive Star Wars fan. Love that movie so much. So I got into IT and started doing that, and I've always been interested in music. So I didn't actually teach myself. I got inspired by my physics teacher, Tony Shady. So if you're watching or listening, Tony Shady, hello out there. You were a big influence, a major influence in my life, and I thank you all the time for our friendship. And we've lost touch kind of now, but you were a massive influence in my life. So I used to call him Shaq. I don't know why, but anyway. Shaq and I used to meet up on a Friday night after school, most Fridays for around maybe a year or two. And we'd listen to records. He had a really good record collection and a really good stereo. And I'd bring a blank tape, play records and record the songs that I'd liked. And then we'd play along on guitars to the songs as they were being recorded. And then I'd take the tape in my portable cassette tape player and take that on my walk back home to where I lived. And listening to all the music that we'd recorded in that night's session. And then the week leading up to the next time we'd meet up again, I'd be getting a guitar out and playing along with all of those songs. So I kind of got inspired and taught myself as well how to play guitar. And all through that was working out ways to make noises and record noises so that I could play along with them. But I just didn't have the money. So I remember going to the tip with my dad once. This is a pretty common thing we did in the 70s. It wasn't just me. But many families would go to the tip and be treating it almost like an outing where you'd go and dump stuff and then have a look to see what other people had thrown out. And sometimes, if it was good enough, you could take it home, repair it, and get it working again. And one of the things I discovered out there, this sounds disgusting, but it wasn't as disgusting as you'd think. There were places where you dump like disgusting stuff, and then there's other stuff where it was landfill and it wasn't soiled, so to speak. It was broken, and it was just going to be thrown out into a clean landfill, and that's where we'd pick up stuff that was clean. And I found a Philips PA amplifier, an old tube valve amplifier, and it was meant for audio, meant for a school for headmistresses to announce things over to the classrooms. But it still worked, I assumed, or I thought, I hoped it would still work. So I picked it up, took it home, powered it on, and of course it worked. And I thought, oh my God, it's got a phono input, a guitar lead input. So I put a guitar lead on the guitar, threw it into the amp, turned it on, and bang, I got it working. There was a speaker that was lying around the house, and I wired that up and then heard guitar noises through it. And my God, it was so good. It was like a fuzz distortion built in. It was just so good. You could overdrive it if you turned it up loud enough and had the gain going on the guitar loud enough as well. And playing an E chord at 11 p.m. at night with no lights on, you would literally see the valve just glow and expand with the electrons and God knows what going on electronics in the valve. Beautiful. There's like a blue velvet glow coming out of the valve. There's 3 of them from memory. And they used to glow like that. One was orange, one was blue, one was white. And, oh, my God. I wish I kept it. I don't know what's happened to it, but it's somewhere, but I don't know where it is. Yeah. And over the years, Dave and I, my brother, we used to upgrade our guitars, upgrade the amps, and try things out. So that love of music has always been there, and I still, to this day, do that. Like play and record and try and work things out. So I did that all through growing up, moving around, getting married. Always had guitars and amps and sound recording things going on. IT and computers really did take center stage for a long time, but music was always in the background. So I used to play music in church every Sunday and Wednesdays. We used to. Maybe for like 10 years, I'd be practicing songs on the Wednesday and the Sunday, then playing on the Sunday night. So setting up the mixer, the snake, the multi-core cable from the mixer and amp through to the speakers, through to the instruments, mics, etc. Do all the levels. I used to set that up and then pack it up every Sunday before service and after service. Yeah. And so I know sound equipment and I know levels and things like that. And it's, I don't know, just really good fun. Yeah. So I did that for a long, long, long time while doing IT. So, I had a really interesting time in IT. So I was working full-time for a number of organisations. So I worked at the University of Western Sydney in Campbelltown for about 9.5 years. And then I left and went to work for a company called Renison Goldfields Consolidated, which is a gold mining company. It used to be a big building in Circular Quay in Sydney, 26 stories high or something. It was labelled the AMP building was it AMP? No, Goldfields House. It was actually Goldfields, on the top. And I learnt a really valuable lesson there, which I'll talk about at a later stage. But that basically was where I started working full-time in a corporate world in Sydney in IT. I went from Renison Goldfields to NRMA. After NRMA, I went contracting, and I stayed contracting. I went to Perth for a year, took all my musical stuff with me, and all my IT stuff as well, which wasn't a lot, but anyway, I took a lot. I took it all over there, rather. Spent a year in Perth contracting in IT and got paid pretty well and had a really good time. Came back to Sydney a year later and continued contracting and just worked all over Sydney in various organisations. And I thought that it was going to be a career that I would literally die in. Like, you'd literally find me hunched over a keyboard dead because I really loved it and spent a lot of time in it and was getting better and better and better at what I was doing. I eventually became a senior project manager, scrum master, working at the Department of Education New South Wales in Sydney, in Redfern. And there was a change in government, change in leadership, change in program, also a change in heart for me to live just a more honest and direct life. So I did something which I'm kind of proud of, but, it was massive cost because I basically told my management, my team and I aren't that busy. You're wasting your money. can we do something else? Instead of giving us something else to do and redeploy us, they disbanded. They did re-employ a couple other developers to do other things, but for people like me, there wasn't much more to do, so they let me go. Damn, 6 months into my 12-month contract. I missed that place. It was really good. The people were good. The money was great. Conditions were really good as well. So it was pretty much work from home and go in the office maybe once every 2 weeks or so. And it was, everything that I dreamed of was all there. It was really good. Anyway, June 2023, they let me go. And I thought, I'll just get another contract. But that didn't happen. And so eventually I spoke to Elizabeth, my wife, and we agreed, I'll try and find a job locally. And so Signub accepted my my application, and I'm working there now casually, pretty much 40 hours a week, 5 days a week. So, and it's been really good. It was humbling and really interesting to go into a team member's role, like bottom of the rung, and I'm staying there. I've got no desire to climb any corporate ladders. I'm getting enough money to survive on. It gives me all my time back. I'm in a really good place spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, everything. So it's just really working for me, and I'm staying there as long as they want me. So in the meantime, though, I want to also pursue my interest in sound, and especially in movies. Like, I think sound on its own and making music is really, really tough, like financially. But I've found this Facebook group, because one of my buddies that I worked with in the University of Wollongong, Graham Jacobs, we stay in touch and we meet up every 6 months or so. And on one of those meetups, he was telling me he joined this. I think it was on Facebook, but it's actually a separate business entity called Star Now, and he was an extra, and he worked on movie sets as a background extra, and he got paid like $500 or something to do that. So I thought that's something that I'll pursue since I lost the job. So I thought, okay, I'll put more effort into that, because I joined it thinking if he did it, I'll give it a go and see what it's like as well. And when I started doing looking into it in more detail and understanding what's required to put more effort in to try and get extras roles, I worked that out, and then started to get some offers. And one of the offers came up was for Pieces of Her on Netflix. And so I applied and I got accepted, and I got paid $550 from memory to start work at 5 a.m. and finish at 8 p.m. So the movie world has long hours, but it is super fun. It is super fun. And to get paid $550 was in the ballpark for me. It's a bit low, but it's in the ballpark to make it worthwhile. So I went, I got dressed up in my 80s suit, had my haircut done, had makeup put on, and I was positioned right next to one of the co-stars, just by chance, in the filming of Pieces of Her. So Pieces of Her stars Toni Collette, and there's the guy from Lost, John Locke. He's playing the character called John Locke. I can't remember his name, sorry. But he was there as well. So American actor, famous Australian actress, and then there's this upcoming actress from England who I was sitting next to, and she gets shot, and so I get spattered with blood in this movie scene in Pieces of Her. It's one of the last scenes, so if you're looking for me in there, you'll see me in, I can't remember what episode it is, but it's one of the last episodes, because it's the climax of the whole show. And that was really interesting to see how the cameraman works, the sound guy works, the director works, what's involved to make a movie. And to do these, there were 2 scenes that were being filmed. It took the entire day to do 2 scenes. That was just repeated over and over and over and over and over again until it was perfected. And that was a real big eye-opener to me, what the life of a crew member or a person involved in movies is like. So, yeah, I liked it, and I thought, okay, I've got to do more of this. So, for whatever reason, I can't remember how, but I got in contact with a guy called James Carley, who set up a Facebook group, the Sydney Movie Makers group, I think he's called it. And we meet up once a month and make short movies in between meeting up. So that was back in, I'm going to say April or so last year, 2023. So since then, they needed a sound guy. And I was looking at doing like video because I'm going to go back a bit. I started a YouTube channel in 2018 through my interest in photography as well as sound, as well as making like movies, videos. I had a friend who came over from Perth and I did a video of picking him up from the airport, showing him the sights of Sydney, interviewing him, and basically making a video of his journey on his birthday present to come to Sydney to spend some time with me. And I put it on a DVD and I gave it to him when he left as a memory or memento of his time in Sydney on his birthday. And I was blown away by how I could make a movie using iMovie and a really cheap Sony. I can't remember the model number now, but it was one of those compact 720p video cameras, built-in microphone, really crappy video, but good enough to make a DVD from. And so that memory was in my mind. My friend Graham working in Star now, and then doing extras work, starting a YouTube channel, blah blah blah, all come together. And I thought I'm going to try and see if I can make a career or make some kind of a side hustle doing sound on movies. And I was aiming for doing cinematography or videography, but there's so many people in that space and it's so competitive that it reminds me yet again of the whole human race thing, I guess. The race as in competition, where you've got to, I don't know, I don't like putting people down or beating them. It's weird. I am competitive, but I'm also like empathetic. So I don't like disappointing people just to get what I want. I'd rather I get what I want and somehow work out how to get what they want as well. Yeah, and because there's so many egos in the movie making world, especially with camera people, because it's the you think of a movie and think of how to make a movie, the first thing you think of is a video camera, therefore a video operator. And unfortunately, the video operators, on the whole, some of them are just a-holes. So most of the people in fact, all the people that I know in this group that James set up are not like that. They're really, really cool people, and luckily I got to meet them and work with them. So I am going to go into the world of cinematography, videography, but I want to do sound because I can see there's a massive hole, especially the quality. I'm blown away by I don't know what it is, lack of understanding, lack of interest, lack of effort. I don't know what it is, but like I've only been doing sound professionally since November last year, but I really think that I'm on a par with a lot of other sound people. And the amount of money that they're charging is ridiculous. Like, it's so low. You can't make a living from it. And so they're setting themselves up for long-term failure. And I learnt this from my time working in project management and especially in my own business in the Computer Guy, where you've got to set the earning. This is another subject. You've got to set your hourly rate really high to make your business sustainable and give it legs to be able to live and grow. But so many people don't see it that way. They see it as being greedy and selfish, but it's not. It's just realistic. Like, if you don't get enough money in to run a business, the business won't run. It'll just fall over one day because you won't have enough money to keep it running. It's very basic. Anyway, that's what I'm bringing to the sound world now, I hope. But anyway, I found the movie group, started making movies. The sound equipment that I bought was of a good quality, but I didn't have enough of it, if you know what I mean. So I've got, at one stage I had one sound boom pole, which I bought on the morning of the shoot, and I raced over to Artarmon to pick it up from Rubber Monkey, put it on my motorbike with my microphone and my batteries, and rode back to the set and put it all together. And luckily it all connected and all worked. Imagine if there was one connection missing that didn't quite make the whole thing work. Chances of that were pretty high, by the way. But anyway, luckily I thought it through and I I think my project management skills stopped that from happening. Yeah. So the basic equipment I had was at that point, I think from the YouTube channel, I'd decided I needed to up my quality in the sound area. So I started buying Rode microphones, and the Rode Video Mic NTG is the one that I use to this day, which is really, really good for indoor shotgun use. But I knew that I needed an outdoor mic for different purposes, for YouTube as well. And I'd bought a Sennheiser MKE600, which in my mind is like, I can't tell the difference, in all honesty, between that and what I've heard of the Sennheiser MKH416, which is the Hollywood standard microphone, which costs like $1,300, maybe $1,500 in some instances. So my $300 MKE600 is what I used predominantly for outdoor booming, and I'm blown away by the use of that. I love it. I was recording. And for that shoot, I actually bought a Tascam Portacapture X8 as well. So together, that's a really good field recorder. It's not really used in excuse me. It's not really used in movie making production, because it's not designed to be worn on the hip in a like a carry case. It's meant to be handheld or put on a some kind of a stand. But I wanted to blend what this has to offer. So it's got an audio interface through USB. It's got two built-in microphones in an XY or AB format, so you can get really good, crisp stereo sound. And it has 4 XLR inputs, as well as a single stereo camera input. So with all that together, there's like 8 inputs, and you can easily expand that, obviously, through either USB connection through the USB audio interface or via a mixing desk into 2 of the XLR inputs and build that out. If you don't know what I'm talking about there, it's okay. This just means that it's in my mind, a very a useful. Oh, I had the word, now it's gone. Like a universal tool I can use to either use it on its own or integrate into a bigger system to make it more robust or more useful, if you like. But it's just a really great sounding piece of equipment, and it's very versatile. That's the word I wanted to use, versatile. Yeah. So I plugged that in and use my Marantz boom pole, which I think is it's the one with the integrated cable inside of the boom pole, and I like that more than wrapping the XLR cable around the boom pole just to stop rattling noises and things like that. Although both have that propensity, but if you hold it in one position, it won't make that noise. The lightness of it and the length of it is what appealed to me. I've also got a Boya. The cost of that one is the one that appealed to me, and that one's a carbon fiber. So it's much lighter, but not as long, and it doesn't have an internal cable from memory. Oh no, it does, but it's a spring-loaded one. That's right. The Marantz is not spring-loaded. You've got to coil up the cable externally to the boom pole, whereas the Boya is an internal spring-loaded XLR cable. So it's integrated. The chance of there making noise is higher, but again, if you hold it in one position, it doesn't make any noise. So I hold it in that position. And hooking it up with the Tascam Portacapture X8, it just becomes this really efficient, small, easily set up, easily held. I put it in my Bellroy messenger bag, basically, and it sits in there nicely with a battery pack, so it's USB powered. And I can use it then as a USB audio interface when I'm busking. So it becomes this tool that I use for making movies or making music. And it does a really good job. 32-bit float, headphone output. It's got a speaker monitor, Bluetooth connectivity, so I can do time code as well. So it's got a lot of versatility. I'll talk about more of the time code functions and in particular the Tascam Portacapture X8 on another podcast. But basically what I'm saying is that finding the Facebook group to make movies led me into actually making movies and being a sound guy. And that led on to joining another Facebook group for Soundies, but junior Soundies. So I joined that junior Soundies group, and to be honest, I feel like I've kind of outgrown that, because they're really pushing student film makers wanting sound people, and then pushing the roles to people like me to fill, which I'm happy to do, but the budgets are really, really tight. So you're talking $100, $200 for a full day's work. And like for my boom poles, which I paid probably collectively, say $750, the Tascam was $1,000. The microphones, I've spent maybe $1,000 there. So for, a close to $5,000 outlay with all the cables and all the bits and pieces that I need to make it all run, to get $200 a day back is not going to work economically. So kind of losing interest in that group, and I'm hoping to start another group where you can get to the next level up and then advertise services for soundies who are not just starting out but are kind of progressed beyond that, offering time code, offering proper file naming, proper delivery of the sound, assistance with sound engineering, post movie production, etc. So buying all that sound equipment basically has led me to the point where I need to run it as a business now, and I'm going to do that as a side hustle to Signub. So Signub will be a base income, and then the sound guy work will become a side hustle, and eventually I hope to make that into a career jump at the point where I'm making enough money to do sound work. So I just came off a session of 7 weeks of ADR work, working with Joe Joseph on a Bollywood movie. So he's funded that, and I'm actually trying to encourage him to start thinking of making money from the movies, not just doing passion projects, which he's famous for. He's actually really well known in India as a movie producer, and I didn't know that. He's an actor, a writer, a director, and he's got a whole lot of really good friends with the same interest from India, and he's basically taken people from almost his hometown and either brought them with him, or they've met up over here in Australia and are pursuing movie making as well. So I really value Joe Joseph's friendship and his faith in me to make sound and do ADR work, recording all the actors' dialogue. It's been such a great experience. I really love it. So I'm hoping to turn that experience into a bit of a spin-off business. If I can get enough interest and enough work in the sound world, I'd like to be able to set up a studio, because I've noticed around Sydney it was really hard to find an affordable studio which could guarantee an absolute silence. Like we need complete lack of interference from Wi-Fi, telephone, like mobile telephone towers, any kind of electromagnetic interference. We need total isolation from that. And there are very few places around Sydney that I'm aware of that will charge something in the order of $500 a day to do that. And looking into it more and more, I can see why, because you need at least double layer brickwork to isolate or remove the sound from coming into a sound recording space. And then you need to have a couple of rooms set aside inside that double-walled structure, and then protection from sound vibrations. So if you've got people working on construction, say a new house being built, for example, there are sound waves that can come through the ground up through the floor of the building. So you need a room or a big venue constructed which is isolated as much as possible from all vibrations and all kinds of electromagnetic interference. That costs a lot of money. So I can understand why it's hard to find a place like that will charge around $500 a day to do that kind of activity. $500 a day, I think, would be within a lot of movie makers' budgets to do ADR. Yeah, so we were doing the ADR on weekends because Joe works, and a lot of the actors, actresses, Suhail's hi, Claire hi, there's a lot of other people involved. They're all working full-time jobs like I am as well. So all this work is done, like I said, a passion project on weekends or on weeknights. So it's expensive time-wise, money-wise, in every way. So it's, I can see why the appeal would be to keep it around the $500 a day mark. But that's, unless you could book out that facility 7 days a week, it would it would be difficult to make money. You'd have to be charging a lot more than that. So for passion projects, I think you could get away $500 a day, providing then you had fully funded projects where you'd have to be charging thousands of dollars a day. So you'd have all the sound equipment in-house, an engineer in-house, all the microphones, all the connectors, stands, all kinds of bits and pieces, audio protection for sound prevention and sound retention and sound molding. So you'd have to have all kinds of materials in the building of this venue, and it's all very expensive. When you put the word acoustic in front of something, you can double the price at least easily. So that's something I'd like to pursue down the track is more ADR work. DaVinci Resolve caters for that really well. I'm working out a way where I can make a mobile ADR type of station. So for people like Joe Joseph, I could then take my kit somewhere where we know it's reasonably quiet and then set up and do ADR with an external monitor, the microphone set up, headphones ready to go, and then prompts and looping of the scene over and over again to perfect the timing and the syncing of the spoken word over the video. And the interesting thing about Bollywood and ADR work is that most Bollywood movies use ADR. They don't go and record the audio at the time of the video being recorded. And the reason is because it's so noisy. I didn't know this, but in India, there is so much noise, you can't guarantee that you'll pick up just the audio that you want without all the background noise that you don't want. So what they do is they just work with it. They accept, we're going to have all this background noise, so we'll do ADR on all of the dialogue. And if you look carefully, that's why you can see a little bit of a syncing issue with a lot of Bollywood movies, is because the mouth movement and the words coming out don't always match 100%, just because it's really hard to get the same emotion out of an actor when they've done the scene weeks earlier and they've got to do the audio on top of that much later. So it's fast. I never knew that. So I'm pretty sure all Bollywood movies do ADR, as opposed to Western movies where you try to capture all the audio at the time of the video being captured. Very, very interesting. So there's a definite market out there for ADR work around the world, because you don't have to actually be in the same country to do ADR. If the latency issue can be taken care of, which I believe it can be with the latest tech, you could, in theory, have someone remotely do ADR. That would be interesting. So there's a lot of scope in that space. So I'm going to try and investigate that. So that's why I've got here buying sound equipment. That leads to the future ideas, which we just spoke of. So digital products is another interesting one. There is a guy on YouTube. I'm going to show you this guy. It's very interesting. Free to use sounds. I've been following this guy for a couple of years now. And that's him. He's got a YouTube channel. And if you're not looking at the podcast on YouTube, you won't be able to see what I'm looking at here. But anyway, Free to Use Sounds has been running around the world with his partner, partner, and they've been recording sounds using field recording equipment. He's making a living out of it. He's got a website, Free to Use Sounds. where you can free to use sounds, where you can download and pay for his field recordings. So he gave me the idea that I could do a similar thing, because with digital products, this is why this appeals to me. Digital products, unlike a brick and mortar business, you put in effort once, and then you can sell that digital product millions of times through your sleep, whether you're working somewhere else or whether you're adding more sounds or digital products to your digital system. And that really appeals to me, where, I can combine recording sounds for Foley, so Foley being special effects on movies, or just recording sounds where people, for whatever reason, want a particular sound. I can put it on the website and then work out a way to stop that being duplicated without getting payment. I'm not sure how to do that yet, but I can work it out. So free to use sounds is basically, that's what they're doing as well. The difference being, I want to work out a way where I can make the searching for the sounds just really intuitive. So this is the thing. As much as I like this guy, I don't think he's got a good way for us to find the sounds that we want. Say, for example, I want to have the sound of what's something that's a little bit unusual? Say an alarm clock with a bird song in the background. So how do you find that? If I go to household, for example, all right, so I want an alarm clock. See? Where am I going to find that? Like, what's happening here? Household. I don't even know where I am. It's taking me to somewhere down the list, but I don't get it. So I'll try something else. And if I go room tone, wind, weather, see, I don't even know where to look for an alarm clock. Maybe instruments? I don't know. Train. Yeah, but can you see what I'm trying to demonstrate here is all I want is an alarm clock, and I can't seem to find that. So how do you search for the room, for the effect that you want? Let's say special effects. No, you see what I'm saying? So what I want to bring to the internet is my take on how to find a specific sound that you want by making the searching of that really, really easy. And then in my mind, it means working out categories that make sense to people intuitively. So for me, an alarm clock intuitively is going to be under household. But then when I go to that, it takes me here, but I don't know where to look for after that. Buttons and switches, garage door. See, it's funny because there's garage door sound effects, really specific. But then if I try to go for an alarm clock, which is equally as specific, I can't find it. But I can see paper shredder sound effects. Like, I don't know. Just in my mind, it should be easier than that. So that's the whole where I see this an opportunity to get a search kind of an intuitive search procedure, if you like, or system worked out. So that's where I'm headed to do that, and that's what I'll set up a website and start doing some sound recordings and put them up there. Before I do that though, I've got to work out how can I stop that sound being downloaded and then just freely distributed. I want a way to. There's an honor system which could work, but historically does not work that well. Yeah, but there's got to be a way where I can kind of unlock it, if you like. So I'm thinking of making like a I was thinking of a poor quality, but then you listen to it and you think, oh, I'm not spending money on that. It's a poor quality. So you want to be able to have the highest quality, but protect it from being copied. And I don't know how to do that. Maybe I just got to bite the bullet and hope people are honest and spend the money. I don't know. Anyway, that's my idea. So that's how I got into sound, and that's where I am right now. It brings me to this day where I've got. I'm gonna hook up this camera and show you what I mean. Yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. It's too involved. So behind me, I've got. I don't even know if I can show you behind me. Where can I show you? So it's not even going to be in this view. No, I can't show you. But I've got a number of Ryobi Link system boxes with gear in it, from streaming, sound, photography, busking. They're all labelled different things with all this equipment stuck in it. And I would think that there's a couple of $1,000s worth of gear in all that stuff I've got. So I've got all the gear. All I've got to do now is get a bit more finesse around being able to set up the gear quickly to get the outcome that I want. I'm really happy with the sound recordings that I can make. What I try and do is get the rawest sound possible. So I don't like using compression or limiters or EQ or anything like that on the raw audio. I just try to get the best quality of the audio that is appearing in front of me without too much background noise and with really good signal to noise ratios, so that you can't hear, that hissing or that white noise in the background, but all you hear is silence and then the noise that we're trying to concentrate on. I'm really happy with the ability to do that, because fixing things in post for me is a lazy approach. Everything should be done at the time of recording as much as possible to make it as perfect as possible, reproduction. And then in post, you can change the EQ, you can add effects, you can do what you want to do to make it work with the audio equipment limitations we're going into to make a movie or produce sound effects that we want. But without a good, clear, clean audio to begin with, it makes the job even harder then to get the sound that you're after with all the post effects and things like that. I just see it as being a bit of a compromise. Yeah. So I really want to have a really good top quality audio signal, audio source to start with, and give that to people that then they can do whatever they want with. So, and that's the quality focus I want. So two things. Good quality sound, and secondly, a really good way to find the sound, or maybe even the reverse that. Should be able to find the sound that you're after quickly, and if it's not there, then be able to notify me, hey, I want this sound, can you get me that? And then I can get that sound quickly and put it in a place which is intuitive and easily located just by thinking, I want that sound. Where in this list of sounds can I find it? And I want it to be able to be found that quickly, that easily. I'm thinking a search button obviously is going to be the first thing, but I would like also for people to be able to click through and find the sound they're after without the use of search, because a lot of people don't have faith in search. And if they can see for themselves where they're going, then that uncovers a lot. And I'm thinking like a tree structure, like what we see here on the mind map. You can tell I'm a big fan of mind maps. And it seems, I just see it as a, what's the word? Like it operates in a very similar way to what our brains work. So you've got a thought, and then it's broken up into a whole lot of sub-thoughts. And then, so you can go like lessons being learnt and current projects. These are all my current projects. Andrew Harris, internet content creation, video making strategy, using social media platforms. And so I've broken it down to video, podcast, or Podio and Vidcast and audio, and then I've broken that down into whether it's podcasts or not. So you can kind of mimic what our brain does, categorizations, subcategories, and then subcategories within those. And it should be, in my mind, it should be intuitive as well, like this is. Yeah, because you can see there with that podcast, I did waver a lot, but there was background info that I needed to fill in to make these points, and I got through those points. So if you play this back and map out the structure of what I've been talking about, it will more than likely follow what is presented here in terms of started from the top and worked my way down, covered those points as we needed to, and it was a logical progression. So it seems to work in my mind, and I like it. I like it a lot. And on that note, I shall now end the podcast because it's very long. Thank you very much if you got it through, or if you persevered and listened right through to the end. A prize for you, which is thanks. I can make prizes when I become rich and famous, but right now I'll just say thank you so much. So on that note, I will say adieu, and we shall catch up with you next time. Bye for now.